Hello everyone. Okay, today's video is actually to show people some of the common mistakes uh, that Toreba players tend to do. Okay, this machine is actually relatively new. As you can see, it's actually a Stitch. This is a very cute Stitch. Actually, I wanted this for a very long time. So I did the previous play. This is the after the staff actually reset the machine itself. So I'm while watching the other players playing, so I didn't jump in the queue because I already got it. So I just want to see how people actually manage to win it without using because I won it previously, so I wanted to see what other methods can you actually win it. So for this machine, this plush was actually towards the right side of the machine, and you can see that if you the claw is actually right above the plush, yeah, there's no way that you can lift it. The claw is not strong enough to actually lift the stitch. So when I'm looking at how the other players play, I'm thinking maybe you can actually move the claw further right, like what they're doing now, and maybe try to see if you can actually flip the bottom. I'm not sure why he's heading for the head, but okay, I think it's too far right, so it doesn't do anything. But I actually observe another issue with this machine, and I'm looking at how other people are playing. So if you can see, the claw actually didn't really go deeper down to actually reach the lower back or lower portion of the plush. So when the claw hits down, it only touches like half the plush. So that means if you are trying to flip the stitch over, it's not really possible. You can only try to actually maneuver the plush to actually move it over. One thing you can do is probably you can stab it, like using the right claw to stab it so that it can actually move towards the right. Another method I use is actually to move the stitch at this position to move it over to the left. As you can see, there is a rounded tiny tail at the back side of the stitch. So what it can do is it actually affects the flipping. So this is how I actually played it. So I didn't manage to catch the previous rounds that I did. So I actually try to move the stitch at that kind of position to actually towards the left side so that the tail can actually touch the edge of the left side of the machine. So it actually act as a balancing pivot. So for these few rounds, I actually fast forward because I try to move it as close as possible for the tail to actually hit the edge. So if I manage to hit the edge, so when I try to apply some force to flip the stitch over, it actually tilt and then like just roll down. So I'm because the claw is not very strong, and probably because I didn't move uh left side more, so like it's actually quite hard to move the stitch. So I'm doing some adjustments here and there, and finally I actually managed to move the tail to the leftmost side of the machine. So now all I will need to do is actually to see if I can flip it. And if you can tell, the claw is not strong enough to actually flip the head. So I actually try to see if I can, stab it and then like it will actually like fall over. But it doesn't work. So the only method I can use now is actually to tackle the bottom to see if I can pivot the tail at the bottom, which, ta-da, it works. So this is my method of winning, but let's see how actually the other people try to win this at this position. At this point when I'm doing the recording, actually there are a lot of people in the queue, so the queue is always like five, so it's always full. But I think a lot of people are trying to think of a way to actually play this machine. So they just quit the game and I rejoin the queue again. I'm not very sure because the number is like jumping and jumping. So like suddenly from 5 we actually fall to 4 3, and then suddenly it went back to 5 again. So I believe that people are trying hard to find a way to win this, but they didn't really think of a good method to do so. So for me, if I'm in this machine right now, I'll probably do the same as how I actually won it previously. So to actually move it towards the left side, to make sure that the tail actually touch the edge of the left side of the machine, and we can actually pivot it over. So let's see if there are any other players who are trying to do the same. Okay, so I waited for around 2.5 minutes, and there's no movement to the machine. So finally somebody moved. Okay, so this person is trying to do the same, to actually try to flip it to the right side. Let's see if it works. As you can see, the claw actually touches half of the head of the stitch, so it didn't go that deeper to the bottom of the, which is the right side. No, sorry, this is the left side of the stitch. So if it doesn't help to actually the claw to actually go down further, it actually stops the flipping from occurring. So I guess if they're trying to do this method, the only way is to stab it using the right claw. But I think he actually went too far left, so it actually, yeah, it doesn't help. Or maybe there's some lagging going on at his side, so he actually didn't manage to actually stab it. So let's see if he'll try to do anything else. Now he's going further right. I believe he's trying to tackle maybe the bottom, to actually see if he can move the bottom nearer to the right side of the bar. Yeah, it doesn't work because the claw doesn't have the strength. So I'm not sure, like if you are in this machine, like what are the methods other than mine, you can think of to actually win this. Maybe you can write down in the comments below for other people to learn. Because Toreba is actually quite a fun game, and you can actually win attractive prizes. Just that it's relatively expensive to play. So if it's possible, and we can try to help those who actually wanted the prize, but don't want to spend so much money. Like all these videos, like the teaching videos, is actually more or less trying to help people to save a bit more, but to get something that they like. Okay, I believe that moving towards the right side, it doesn't really work. So as of now, I can only think of the method that I use. So if any of you can think of other methods to actually do it, yeah, please write down in the comments below, and we can actually bring it up for discussion. Or maybe I can actually try the method with a play to actually test it out. And if it really works, yeah, then it actually helps with the visual aids. Okay, after this, I actually waited for another 2 minutes or so, and nobody made the attempt, although the queue is still full. So I actually stopped the recording when the queue turns 0. That means like the staff will actually come in to do the reset. So here's another play that I actually wanted to show. Okay, this is another machine. It's also for Stitch. So when I jump into this machine, there are like 2 people inside. So I actually observe how this player is trying to play, and you can tell like he actually moved the claw right above the Stitch, and it actually doesn't do anything to it. Previously, I actually tried this machine, and I actually pay a very high price to win that. I think I spent almost like 150 Sing dollars to actually win that machine, which is actually way beyond my budget. and I didn't realize that until the whole play was over. So to avoid other Toreba players like you to actually spend so much money like how I did, I actually wanted to show how you can actually play without having to use so much money. So first thing first, what I'm trying to do here is actually to maneuver the head of the stage towards the right side of the machine, so that it actually um, forms a horizontal leaning against the front side of the machine, which is near the winning bar. So what I'm trying to do here is actually to make sure that when the stitch is horizontally leaning against the bar, you can actually try to flip it downwards. So now because the stitch is actually still quite above the machine, so you actually take a bit more place to actually move it towards the ideal position. As you can see, currently stitch at this position is not ideal because if you remember from the previous round, there is actually the tail of the stitch which you want it to be against the winning bar. So now my plan is to actually rock the stage from the right side of the stage to actually see if you can move the tail towards the winning bar and preferably towards the edge of the winning bar. So that is what you want, so that you can actually pivot the stitch into the chute. So what I'm trying to do here is, because the right side of the stitch is nearer to the bar, I try to lift up the right side so that it actually rocks and then tilts towards the winning chute. But because you can see the claw actually didn't go really deep down, so it actually didn't dive towards the back of the head of the stage. So I'm trying to use the arm to see if I can lift up the stitch. Yeah, which it works. So it is slowly heading towards the winning bar itself. So now I'm trying to do it again to see if we can actually move the tail nearer to the edge of the bar. Okay, seems like it doesn't work. So I need to find another method, or maybe use the same method but do some adjustments to actually rock the stitch. So now I actually move my claw towards the middle of the stitch to see if I can actually lift up the whole thing. But you can tell it actually doesn't lift up, but actually shifts the stitch towards the left side of the machine. So now we will try to tackle the back, which is the left side of the stitch, to see if I can actually push it downwards, because I need the head to be lifted. Oh, that's a bad move. I actually step onto it. That is really a bad move. It actually, like, shifted the tail of the stitch of the machine. So now I need to adjust the tail back. So I can do now is actually to use the right claw to push the bottom of the stitch back onto the bar to make sure that the tail actually touches back the bar again. Because when the stitch is at this position, what you can do is to actually find a way to lift up the head of the stitch so that it's actually half floating onto the bar, and with that you can actually rock and pivot the stitch down. So now I'm trying to find a way to actually lift the head of the stitch, but because the claw doesn't go underneath the head of the stitch, it's very hard for me to actually lift up the head of the stitch. So now I'm trying to centralize the claw to see if I can actually flip it from the back, which, yeah, it doesn't work because the bottom, which is the tail part, is actually stuck at the winning bar, and the head is actually not really towards the winning position, so you cannot really flip it over. So with this, I'm trying to lift the head with the hands, and yeah, it actually works. So you can see the head is actually lifted on top of the winning bar, which is at a better position for you to flip. With the stitch at this position, it'll be easier for you when you're trying to do the flipping. But of course, you need the stitch to be slightly more floating. But it seems like it doesn't really work. So what I can do now is actually to try to flip the stitch from its left side to see if I can actually flip it off the machine. Oh, nearly. I guess I need to probably adjust my claws to see if I can actually flip it again. And there you go. Yeah, after the adjustment, I actually got it. With this video, I hope that it helps Toreba players out there to actually win. Do hit the like buttons if you like this kind of tutorial videos, and if you want to know more of other machines like on the methods to play, do write down in the comments below, and probably I can use my own painful experience to teach people how to do it. Please hit the subscribe buttons for more. Stay safe and have fun.